Hello and welcome to the Season 2 premiere of Critical Damage, Emerson's #1 esports talk show. I'm your host, Will Snyder, and I'm joined here with two brand new correspondents. #1, oh wait, Ian Copeland. You were here last year. I didn't recognize you with your nice haircut.
Well, I didn't recognize you with a tie on, so, things change.
Fair enough, fair enough. I'm also joined here with our brand new correspondent, Jack Reiber. Jack, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. You might not recognize me, but I recognize you two. I actually watched Critical Damage Season 1 before coming to Emerson.
Man, that's so cool.
Big fan. Happy to be here today.
That's so cool to hear. We're so happy to have you. We've got a great show lined up for you today, so let's dive right in. The Rocket League Championship Series is officially underway, and let's talk about the teams we think have a chance to win it all this season, as well as those who might not have so much of a chance. The first team we're going to start with is G2, which has been a fairly inconsistent top-level team. G2 has always been on the top of the scene in North America, yet always unable to crack that upper echelon. What do you guys have to say about their performance and what we expect from them?
They did well against Rogue last week. I know that much. But again, Rogue was down their carry. First Killer just is now with FaZe Clan. They got the new FaZe member, Gyro, to step in. But I don't think they had enough time. I don't think Rogue had enough time to really collaborate as a team so that we can see them at their full potential. Mm-hmm. But I'd be watching out for them during this upcoming season. But
see, there I disagree, because while Rogue, yes, performed really well last year, they lost First Killer, who last season was the best player in all of North America. So to say that they will bounce back from this, I believe, is wishful thinking, considering that they got a significant downgrade with Gyro, who's still a good player, but he's nowhere near the top potential that First Killer has.
Switcheroo doesn't seem to be helping them at all.
Exactly. And yes, while I'm sure they will get better, I honestly feel like we're just talking about them because of the complete loss that they had when they lost First Killer. Moving on to Envy, which is one of the most consistent teams in all of North America. With Turbo Pulsar coming in from EU, they have always been at the top. Mist and Atomic are great allies for them, and they just play like one of the most solid games of Rocket League. You can see just great on-the-ground play, beautiful passing, great 50-50 type style. It's just overall really solid Rocket League, and it's the type of stuff that you used to see years ago, and they've been able to implement it into the modern game, which is so impressive. The next team we want to talk about, the top dog, #1 in America, and the reigning North American champions, and even though it's been almost 2 years, the reigning world champions, the General NRG. Justin Squishy and Justin Squishy and Carrot G, all coming back for another amazing season. I'm sure they're going to have the most of it, as we see some awesome plays coming out from G2 here. Mm-hmm. Just absolutely phenomenal gameplay from NRG all around. I'm really excited to see what they do, and they are one of the most infuriating teams. Exactly, beautiful rotations, beautiful passing plays on the side of G2 as we watch these.
With this new 16-team format,
yes,
it's going to be longer in some places, shorter tournaments in others.
Yeah.
Do you think all these teams have the stamina to keep up for that many games in one weekend? Most likely. I
mean, it's really hard to say. Like, you look at a team like we talked about G2 earlier, they are notorious for performing great in groups, performing great on like the early days of the knockout stage, and then not being able to perform on the last day. Mm-hmm. But then you look at the up-and-comers like Shopify Rebellion, who the former KC Pioneers team, which just last week got second at the We Play Invitational, which no one saw coming. They didn't even qualify for the North American champions. It was the top 6 that qualified. They got 7th. And all of a sudden they come in and get second in this tournament, and it just shows that they are definitely a team on the rise and definitely a team to look out for. But with all the powerhouses that are in North America, you have no idea if they're going to be able to qualify for Worlds, especially with more up-and-comers. The team that beat them out for the NA Championship, FaZe Clan, just picked up the best player in North America. It's very easy to say that they have 2 of the top 5, as well as a great support in Illusion, and they're going to be scary to watch. However, in the We Play Invitational, they struggled. Mm-hmm. We saw them struggle. Yes, they had a sub for Illusion, but it did not seem like from this FaZe Clan team, we're expecting all-out big boost plays from First Killer and AJ just all around the field. They're faster than everyone. They can do it all. And we weren't able to see that because teams were smart enough to not give them space so they can make plays. And if that's all you got to do to beat this FaZe team, if they don't got anything else in the bag, then I don't know, maybe star power is not it. And which is very interesting because I remember right when First Killer announced he was leaving Rogue, he tried out for G2. This is something that happened. And as a G2 fan, I was stoked. He's one of the best players in the world. I was so happy for it to happen. And when the signing didn't come through and he signed with FaZe, I was so disappointed. And now watching this, I kind of realized why. His play style doesn't fit G2. Like we saw G2 very pass heavy, very
very team coordinated.
very team coordinated, and he's more of like a solo dolo type of player. And now I'm like less upset about it. I still think it would have made a great match, but
it doesn't necessarily
work, and like maybe the chemistry wasn't there. Speaking of a bit of some chemistry issues, I'm going to move on to the last thing we're talking about, and that's Space Station Gaming. Arsenal and Reddle seem to always get along, but before Sipical, who used to be their star player, is still really good, was considered one of the best in North America, and now it feels like he's fallen off. And SSG as a whole, they went 0-2 in the We Play Invitational, and we don't really know where they stand going into this season, and we just really hope the best for them. I'm not the hugest fan, but you know, like I hope they can pull it together because right now it feels like other than Envy, no one really is putting up a real challenge against NRG, and even though they were beat by Shopify recently, that feels like a one-off thing. It wasn't. They're still preparing for RLCS. I'm sure they weren't even obviously they're trying to win, but there's not much at stake. And when there's a lot at stake for NRG, they're always the ones to pull it out. Do you guys have any more thoughts going into this season?
Well, I'm a fan of good Rocket League.
Yes.
I'm as long as the teams are bringing their best, and as long as the passes are clean and the flip resets are smooth, then I don't particularly care who comes out on top. And I think the new format where certain regions will be able to win more spots at Worlds. I think. Do
you remember the numbers? Is it so? It's 16 team total. Is
yes.
it? So it used to be 8 NA, 8 EU.
I believe you have to win spots for your region. So whenever you're at these qualifying events, you're not just fighting for yourself. You're not just fighting for your own team's position. You are fighting for your whole region, which as someone from a fighting game background, regions are super important to me. And that just, that really excites me.
I think we're going to see a lot. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in Rocket League. It's a lot more regional pride and love for that. We had the Intel World Open during the Olympics, which was supposed to originally be an in-person event in 2020. Obviously, because of the pandemic, that didn't happen. And USA ended up taking it home with Garrett G, Chicago, and First Killer was the team.
Wow.
Which it's pretty stacked all around. But I mean, I feel like America just has such a huge advantage just because these EU teams, you rarely see I believe Dignitas at this point. Actually, I don't even think they are. They used to be an all-English team. I don't think they are anymore. And the only other one I can think of is the former Solary team, which was an all-French team. But other than that, the French scene normally dominates EU. But other than that, there's not the type of star power as there is in North America.
But also, aren't we getting a bunch of new regions as well?
That is true, and we have seen some from the South America, and the Australian region, the Oceanic region before, which they've performed admirably, including the early days with the Chiefs of OCE were able to dethrone Garrett G's NRG multiple times, which was quite impressive. But since they've never really made real noise, but the region I'm looking most forward to is the Middle East, with players like Ahmed and Khaled coming into the scene, finally playing
on the same stage as
everyone else. They've always been known as amazing players, and now they're really being able to play in an RLCS format. It's going to be amazing to watch, and I really hope they make noise.
Outstanding.
It'd be great if they get a chance to break out onto the scene with these new games.
I'm just super excited to see a LAN. Finally, we're getting a LAN. So, if you don't know, at the end of, you guys know because I was screaming about it before, but at the last summer, there was supposed to be a LAN for Rocket League. It got canceled, even though all other esports were doing their in-person LANs at that point. and everyone was bummed about. And now Sweden, December, everyone's going to be so excited. It's going to be an amazing experience. I want next one that's in the States. I feel like I gotta get a ticket. I feel it's an amazing atmosphere. It's gonna be I gotta treat myself. It's gonna be amazing, and stuff like that is like once in a lifetime moments, especially with all what's been going on. How we're finally getting back to some sense of normalcy. Seeing things like that are gonna be so impressive, and just the way Rocket League works as it's kind of combines like the esport nature with like actual like sports physics, because it is a physics-based game. It just brings a whole bunch of crowd together. And if you can't tell, I'm so glad we're finally talking Rocket League. It's been so good. So many good teams coming in this season. It's going to be a blast. Any last remarks about the Rocket League scene going into season 11 of RLCS?
I'm glad they changed the naming convention. I'm not going to lie. Much simpler this way, much easier to understand.
I'm excited for the new blood this season.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, there's a lot of new blood. I personally love an underdog story. I like to see if they can take out those top dogs.
Exactly. I'm sure some of that will happen. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, the latest addition to the fighting game sphere. We'll talk about that next.
Alright, come back in 10 seconds. Ready, camera 1. Camera 1, get a wide shot of the entire thing, and in 3, 2, 1, take talent cue.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson
Camera
trails
4, get a shot of the players coming across the court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As
Camera 2 close on the person
finishes
shooting.
their timeout. Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this game.
Camera 1, get a close up, follow them over.
Emerson trails WPI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1, close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away.
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Hey, we're your roomies, your homies, your new living best.
We live here too.
Thanks. Liz, do you have any idea what time it is?
It's time.
7. Oh. 7? It would mean a lot to me if you guys watch.
Welcome back to Critical Damage. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Critical Damage EC. The Nicktoons are back for an all-new fighting game, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. And if you think it's just any TV show video game, you're dead wrong. This game has the build of a typical fighting game, but adds new mechanics that brings innovation and complications to the genre. Jack, tell us more.
I'd be glad to. So Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl is a brand new platforming fighting game for the Nintendo Switch and PC, featuring Nicktoon characters. When you look at it, you might think it's just any other Smash clone, but when you look more into the developer notes that people have been spreading, there's a lot more interesting stuff here than at face value. It introduces a ton of new mechanics that build on the Smash Brothers formula. First one being wave dashing. Wave dashing is the signature technique of the competitive Smash Brothers Melee and Rivals of Aether community. It adds to mobility and makes the game much more fast-paced.
It allows you to move. It allows you to do standing attacks while physically moving your character.
Yeah.
So it's super valuable for things like tilts and
For sure.
and not doing dash attacks and doing moving smash attacks. So
And speaking of moving while doing smash attacks, there's a new idea called strafing, where a character is locked in place. Like if you're moving backwards, the character doesn't turn around. It locks the character in place and it walks backwards, allowing you to do forward aerials and other types of forward-facing attacks. So you don't have to resort to a back air if you would prefer to do a forward air. So for things like retreating, that could be really important, where you can cover your horizontal bases by running backwards and doing a forward aerial.
And this is such a simple and brilliant idea.
Exactly.
I cannot believe that nobody's thought about this before.
Right?
The first time I really considered, which way is my character facing, in Smash Brothers in a platform fighter at all was
Ryu
when
in
Ryu
Smash 4.
was released in Smash 4. Exactly. When I had to actively think, oh, if I'm going to be on the ground and I'm 1v1ing this person, they're going to be facing no matter what I input. But now that we have this new strafing system, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Shockingly brilliant.
Any character can use that type of tech that was used for Ryu, Ken, Kazuya, Terry.
My only problem with this system is that the way it works in the air, which means that if you jump and you're not holding the strafe, you're going to start turning every time you input a direction, which is going to lead to a little more, because the idea in Smash Bros. Is that, like, let's say you want to do a back air off the ledge to force your opponent off. You just face backwards, you jump. And hold back to get to them. Here we're going to have to, it's just more inputs to remember, which I guess makes it more like a standard 2D fighting game that has a lot of inputs, but also with like the, like, you know, with all the height elements of Smash, like I feel like it's just going to be a little too complicated. You mentioned wave dashing and talked about how it's, you keep bringing up how it's not just a Smash clone, but a lot of the mechanics you've brought up so far are that from Smash. So can you go into more how this is going to be its own game?
There's a new mechanic there's a new rock, paper, scissors system with smash attacks, where if someone does a forward smash and your opponent does an up smash and they collide, say someone who's doing the up smash loses that turn and their character just starts spinning in the air, allowing the person who landed the forward smash to do a punish. And then vice versa, if you do forward smash and your opponent does down smash, then the person who does forward smash gets like also thrown into a daze or something, or their character turns around. Yeah, something goofy happens to the character.
So rather than being like specific attack priority, like per character per move, it's just per this type of strong attack.
Yes, it's,
so that
it's a
applies
universal
for all,
system. It's not particular to any individual character.
And
doesn't that feel that it gives like each character though a little less of individuality? Like part of the great thing about Smash Bros is like, here's the thing, I love playing Sonic. I love going all over the place. Come on,
of course he does.
Maybe
I love
don't
playing
say
Sonic.
that on air, dude.
I love playing Sonic. He's a lot of fun. But the thing is, his attacks don't out-prioritize anyone. So you have, so that's kind of like the downfall. Whereas, let's say you have a character like Sonic that has this crazy speed, but yet it's just the rock, paper, scissors format. That changes everything. And I feel like you lose a lot of that individuality.
But here's the thing. Fighting games are already based on a rock, paper, scissors system. Attack beats grab, grab beats block, block beats attack. That is the fundamental foundation of every fighting game. It's in Smash, it's in Street Fighter, it's in Guilty Gear, it's in everything. But adding a second system is really exciting to me. I mean, I really, really like this idea.
It's never been done before.
It's never been done
to
before.
my knowledge, it has never been implemented in any fighting game, let alone a platforming fighter.
Other than normal types of priority like startup, traditional prio, hitboxes. Other than things that are specific to the types of moves, this kind of triangle, I don't know, it's exciting to me.
I just think it's gonna feel like every character has 3 counters. Does that make sense? Like how? So like depends. Like I believe that it's going to make you be afraid to do strong attacks, and yes, well, it makes it more of a high risk, high reward.
Yeah. So.
Okay, we're going to move on from this now. We could talk about this all day, but one of the ways that this game is coming to us is through the ability of rollback netcode. I have no idea what this is. Jack, please explain to me what rollback netcode is.
Well, I would love to tell you all about rollback netcode. Okay, so netcode is the communication system that connects 2 players into a game. Netcode is what tells other players what you were doing in the game and vice versa. Most games are delay-based netcode, which is where the game stops communicating player inputs so that it can catch up with all of the previous player inputs. This leads to very laggy and unenjoyable online experiences. Rollback is a different type of netcode, in which instead of putting the game on pause to put in player inputs, the game predicts a player's next move and communicates that before the player's actual input is sent. This may sound complicated, but it creates a near seamless online play with little to no delay. This is the best way I can describe this to you, is that it is a miracle that makes any game function online as if you were playing it with this distance on the same screen.
So this confused me at first because I was looking, I was like, how does it predict your next move? Like everyone plays differently. But then I learned it happens on a frame by frame basis. It's not predicting what your character is going to do, like what the next input's going to be. It's just where the character is going to be on the screen 1 frame later. And believe it or not, they can't get far in one frame.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
You
it's
don't have to
so
predict
it's not
into the
predicting
whole
too far in the
future.
future. It's just right there.
For things like the example that we saw was a heavy kick attack of some kind.
Yeah.
It skipped several frames in the middle of that attack because it knew you were stuck in that kick animation. So then it uses that to resynchronize the games
And catch up.
and
Yeah.
catch up.
The
You
be-
can make it
the
feel
best
like
way I
a
saw
near
this-
seamless local play experience, even though it's online.
The best way I saw to describe it is, you know, when everyone sings "Happy Birthday" and you join in on like the first 2U, it's like you caught up, you're there, no one really noticed, and you joining
Precisely.
in, even though you know it was late, it looks fine
And if you
as
looked-
a whole group.
If you looked at the slowdown, there was a noticeable like
Skip.
slightly slower, slight skip.
Yeah.
But when they played it in full motion, you wouldn't even know.
Exactly.
You wouldn't even know.
Exactly. It seems like a seamless way to implement what used to be couch gaming into an online format. We're going to take one more break, but when we come at, we're talking Guilty Gear Strive EVO 2021. Who was the best of the best left in the Final 8? And what caused the fall of the Sonic Fox? We'll tell you after this. Welcome back, and for our last segment, you know what, guys? I think we've had enough for today. I think we're done. I think it was a good show.
Hold on, Will. Hold on.
What?
We got to discuss EVO 2021's greatest moments, with a special focus on the Guilty Gear Strive final rounds. Legends were made, villains were vanquished, and no one had any idea that Hotashi even had a chance against Sonic Fox.
You heard it here first. Ian finally gets to talk about fighting games. Ian, what do you have for us?
All right, so this tournament meant so much. It is the implementation of mainstream rollback netcode. It is a return to EVO after a destructive year last year. Even though it wasn't in person, it ran pretty darn smoothly. Just this tournament was just outstanding to watch, and each round provides its own little stories. And I guess we should start with Sonic Fox. That is the big point of contention.
Yeah,
I'd say.
I heard before Sonic Fox plays second in Guilty Gear Strive's top 8. Sonic Fox said Guilty Gear Strive is a solved game. Care to talk about what that means?
All right, I completely disagree with him here, is what I'll
Ooh.
open with.
Don't let
Guilty
Sonic
Gear-
Fox hear that.
So when a game is solved, that means essentially that there is no more to discover. The best characters have been determined. There is no more question to what is the best strategy to the game.
Can you care to give an example of a solved game?
Well, a solved game would be something like, man, it's difficult because there aren't that many solved games. Oh, the Sailor Moon fighting game. If anyone knows what I'm talking about at home.
How is that the first game that came to your
Because
mind?
Sailor Moon is completely broken. That game is broken up and down and left and right. It is a solved game. And some people might say Super Smash Bros. Brawl is a solved game.
Meta Knight.
Oh,
Meta
yeah,
Knights,
okay.
Things like that, where it's
Thank
just
you for a much more
relevant,
a much
yes.
more
In case
the rest of you
understandable
human
answer.
beings have
Listen,
played
listen,
Smash
so-
Bros. Brawl and not
friends
Sailor
at home,
Moon,
friends
the
at
fighting
home,
game.
go look up the Sailor Moon fighting game. It's entertaining at least.
Do what he says.
This is all to say, Sonic Fox, immediately after saying Guilty Gear Strive was a solved game, got beat by what many people considered to be a low-tier character, which is just
Nago Ryuki, who can't even dash.
yes, who can't
in
even
a
dash.
movement-heavy video game, fighting game.
Yes, and it's kind of poetic irony to me. After he was like, oh, this game, everyone knows what's best. They said, oh, we don't need to figure out anything more until, of course, this low-tier character comes out of nowhere and wins the whole thing against beating Sonic Fox twice, beating them twice. It's just absurd to me. But a few more matchups we want to talk about. Soul Bad Guy had a huge presence here. In this May versus Soul clip, we can see that May, again, very projectile-heavy character. It's all about those dolphins. It's all
Loves
about
the dolphins.
It's lots of dolphins.
Walrus and the balls.
If you've played Guilty Gear Strive, you know the dread of hearing Toku Sentai. It's ridiculous. However, Soul is such a powerful character. We can see off of the smallest punish here, 75% of her health bar is just
Super
gone.
move into wall break.
Super move into wall break. That is so much damage, and it is comical. It is borderline comical.
Wait, was that the round?
Yes, that was the
That was
round.
the round.
So you can
Look at
see
this.
May tries to dash over Soul, and Soul just presses X, and then that's it. That's the round. He doesn't. He uses half of his bar to get 75% damage. That is absurd.
So I want to talk about
Yes.
this clip for a second, because as someone who's not so much of a fighting game person, this is, I feel like, what kind of can turn people off from these games is, what the hell is May supposed to do there?
Well, there's some great mechanics, such as burst that May can hold on to.
Immediately gets your opponent off you.
Yes. However, again, it's a whole rock, paper, scissors game again. If you burst and your opponent is blocking, you're kind of stuck in that animation for a very long time. So your opponent has lots of time to punish.
A lot of risk reward to it.
And while we didn't see it there, there's things like roaming cancel. There's mechanics all throughout Guilty Gear. But that was also just a very unsafe way to get out of the corner. And he did a great job of punishing what's going on. Still.
So just going on, Jack, what do you think about? You saw the games that we saw. Did you have
Yep.
any takeaways from the final 8 that we saw?
The top 8, I mean, obviously, like Ian was saying, Evo's so great because of the stories. Having a low-tier character beat Leo Whitefang, who's such an incredible top-end character, was really impressive and speaks to the player who's using Nago. I was shocked to see Zato in the top 8.
Really?
Yes, I understand he's a good character, but he's so technical and difficult to play.
These are the best players in the world. What do you mean?
Touche.
Of course.
Touche.
We can see Nago versus Zato right here.
Yep.
And Nago Ryuki trying to get in, and this is actually Hotashi, the player who won the whole tournament.
Yep.
And this is the Hotashi special, actually. Burning all that bar just to land one super. Hotashi loves raw super.
He lets it rip.
My God, just watching him in any game, that's the Hotashi special. But of course, Zato is going to be here. It's just, while he's technical, he's also a point to this is not a solved game. I feel like Zato is so technical that people don't really know how to optimize him yet.
From that clip alone, Zato seems like a very annoying character to play against, just because I saw a lot of just flying up, a lot of zoning, and that can be
Big
so
zoner-heavy
frustrating. You have to
setup
be
character.
so patient, and that just seems brutal to play
So
against.
Zato does have a lot of tools like flight, break the rules, which is where he just literally dips in the ground and becomes untargetable for a bit. But it's all dependent on his own bar, his Eddie bar, which is the demon that works with him. Still, another really technical character that I actually was not expecting to see here was Milia Rage and Ramlethal.
You did not expect to see, or Ram?
Well,
I was shocked I didn't
was
see
expecting
more
Ramlethal.
Ram.
I was expecting
Yeah.
Ramlethal, but I was not expecting Milia Rage because she's so dependent on her one setup, and we can see a slick combo here. But the startup was not her usual Okizeme setup, which is where you get in a knockdown on your opponent and you start putting out hitboxes. The Milia player doesn't even use that setup here. It's just a great burst punish, and that's actually a great example of burst punishing in the first place, as we were talking about earlier.
I feel like it would be poor of us to talk about an EVO tournament without talking about the finals itself. Do you care to talk about how that went and how the winner was able to get it done?
Man, it was an outstanding slobber knocker
Oh,
of a 10-game
that is
set.
a beautiful way to put it.
Just absolutely brutal. Just back and forth the whole time. Both sets ended 2-2. The bracket was reset. Just this is the kind of Guilty Gear that you would like to see.
Jack, do you have any takeaways from it?
Again, those like those game 5 scenarios are
Yes.
just so high tension, so high pressure. Seeing how one player prevails over the other that's what EVO is all about. It's about those moments. And again, watching Nago do it was so impressive, given that Leo is such a cross-up heavy character.
Yeah.
Nago's defense had to be so strong, not just in front of him, but behind as well.
Yes.
Dealing with that corner pressure exceptionally well. And then putting the pain back onto Sonic Fox was just mind-blowing. There's no way to solve the game when a character like that can pull off that kind of defense and offense.
And one clip that I wanted to pull up was the Soul versus Leo clip, because Soul bad guy, Leo Whitefang, both hyper-aggressive characters.
Yep.
The only way you can play these characters properly is just going in and trying to find openings in your opponent over and over. And again, we talked about a little bit about how Soul Bad Guy is absurdly powerful right now. There were only 2 Soul Bad Guys in top 8, which was surprising to me, but also, again, an indicator, not a solved game.
Yeah,
I'm
we
going to
have
keep riffing on this point.
Such a well-balanced cast that you have so many characters present in your top 8.
Yes.
And we've been trashing on Sonic Fox a little
Yes.
bit this whole time. I want to give shout-outs to that clip right there. You see Sonic Fox using their super move. They nailed every single super move they threw out in that game.
Yes.
Every single time, the entire tournament, they nailed it.
Oh my gosh, this is not to bash on Sonic Fox.
They never miss.
I could fight them in 200 sets of Guilty Gear straight. They would win every single one, no questions asked. I just think, everyone has a bad take every once in a while.
Very true.
Will has many bad takes, but
Wow, why you gotta come at me like that? Let's finish this off with talking about what is next for the Guilty Gear scene.
What is next? What is next? The return to
I don't know.
live
I don't know.
events.
I'm asking you.
The return to live events. The upcoming season of new characters.
characters.
This EVO didn't even have any.
How can one say it's a solved game when there's new characters coming in?
That is another excellent question, Will. And I do not fully
Thank
have
you.
the answer to it. Again, we have Jacko Valentine, who just came out, and I believe 3 more characters before halfway through 2022.
And that's just season 1.
And that is just season 1. And these games, Guilty Gear Xrd, went on for over half a decade of
long
just
time.
additions and new versions, new
And
characters.
That's what you got to see from these new games, both fighting and otherwise. You have to see both a strong release, and this is what I'm hoping for Nickelodeon All-Star, is you have to see a strong release as well as a solid flow of content update and patches to keep the community happy while not pandering to them, so that way you can keep the game in the developer's vision. And I think that is super important both for fighting games and otherwise. Well, that's all the time we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us on Critical Damage. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Critical Damage EC and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For Ian Copeland and Jack Ryber, I'm Will Snyder signing off. See you soon.